Oh yeah. Look at that baby. Roaring fire. Nice. Welcome, Hari Bol, Satnam, Namaste. What up? My name is Josh Kane. This is Studio 101. Studio 101 is my home. This is my home base. Yeah, just my face. It's just light. This is where all the magic happens for me. Right now, I'm in my basement. It's a little bit of a mess because I'm trying to get the whole place reorganized so that it's actually going to be like upstairs, and just day by day, step by step, taking advantage of the time that I have right now and in lockdown, and making sure that I make it right here with all of you lovely people in the world. I love it if you check in and you let me know who you are and what brought you here, and where you're at right now. So that way it helps me feel a little bit less alone in this time of isolation. Right. So it was a good day today. Spent a lot of time, thankfully, outdoors. I live in an area where, even though we have a lot of cases of the virus in Connecticut, where I'm at, I also happen to live in a place where if I wake up early in the morning, I can walk out into nature and I can go have time alone, be by some water. As you see, I can make fires. I have a big backyard, so I'm really able to, I don't know if the word is necessarily enjoy the experience, but I'm kind of enjoying life right now in a weird way. I mean, I was just talking to a friend of mine about this. The fact that I'm enjoying life doesn't mean that I'm not struggling. The fact that I'm seeking the joy and the silver lining in all of this and trying to enact it and trying to embrace it doesn't mean that I don't feel sad about what's happening overall. And I think that happiness and sadness can and do exist together. I think that happiness and sadness are part of the same spectrum. And a lot of what we talk about in this satsang and what is talked about and discussed in the Bhagavad Gita is exactly that all things are existing simultaneously and that they're all coming from the same place. And you can struggle if you want to. You can struggle against that reality. You can swim your way against that current if you want to, but it's not going to create the kind of bliss that you're seeking. And you are seeking bliss. Make no mistake about it. You, being alive here as a human, you are seeking bliss. Ecstasy, love, joy, devotion, grace, honor, humility, integrity, shared experience, core values. All of these things are things that you're seeking, that you desire. And yet you get stuck in human drama, just like everybody else. You get stuck in believing these temporary circumstances are real. You get stuck in the emotion of sadness and happiness. Forgetting when you get stuck in the emotion of sadness, you get stuck in the emotion of happiness, you forget that they're the same thing because you're only embodying that, you're fully embodying that one feeling of happiness or that one feeling of sadness. But when you step into the middle, they're all wealth and poverty, hunger and fulfillment, seeking and finding, they're all in the same spot, and you're kind of feeling all of them all at once. You might not be expressing all of them outwardly, but it doesn't mean that they don't exist. So I think that the fact that I'm processing a deep, deep, deep amount of struggle, confusion, and sadness, real sadness, through bliss, through the vehicle of joy, the vehicle of gratitude, it's like it takes those feelings and as best as I can, it immediately transmutes them. It doesn't transform them. It transmutes them. There's a difference. And transmutation is fully taking something from one state into another state, like lead to gold, water to wine. That's transmutation. And that's what I'm actively seeking through this practice of doing this satsang. Every time I'm chanting, anytime I'm praying, anytime I'm out there getting myself into that butt-ass cold water that runs down from the mountain behind my house, running through the earth. It was snowing this morning when I went out there. It wasn't snowing heavy, but the flurries were coming down and it was cold. And as I'm getting into that water, and this morning I couldn't even get my whole upper body in there. I walked in, I got down into my waist, and I was like, this is all I got today, you know? But I'm trying, every time I get in there, I'm trying to remind myself, hot or cold is the same thing. Light or dark, it's the same thing. Morning and night, life and death, same thing. And I have a choice in how I perceive life, how I perceive death as either positive or negative, good or bad, or the ultra advanced bhakti practice is that it's both. That it's all good, the good and the bad. If it exists, it's good because it comes from God and nothing unreal exists. Oftentimes I find myself stepping back going, what is there to be worried about? What is there to be concerned about? If it's all God and it's all good, what's the problem? Oh, there's a giant global pandemic happening. We're all locked in our homes. Great. God's doing that. This is a blessing from God. What is the meaning that you assign to that blessing, though? The meaning that you assign to that blessing could be suffering. It could be fear. It could be paranoia. And trust me, I've been there. I feel paranoia when I step outside my door just to go and visit my family. Yeah. Wim Hof. That's right. The paranoia is real. The struggle is real. But there are practices like Claudine is saying, that this method of putting yourself into the cold and shifting your consciousness, it's a way of learning how to relax yourself. It's a way of learning how to breathe deeper. And it's a change of state. And it helps if you really dig into that physical. Then when you dig into the spiritual and you dig into that emotional, that felt sense, and you start to transform those feelings and transmute those feelings so that they actually elevate and they completely become exactly what you want them to be. It really is all good. It's all good. I feel like there's two people. I know Claudine's here, but there's another person that checks in that chooses to remain anonymous. I wonder who that person could be. Who is our anonymous YouTube viewer coming in to chant with us? Talking about the cold, cold weather and the pandemic in the world. You sit there and you watch. You just listen. And then you go away. Right as I'm talking about you. Don't be scared. We're so friendly. All we want to do is talk about Krishna and the Bhagavad Gita. By the fire in my basement. No more making up songs about people who may or may not exist.
Hare
Krishna Krishna, Hare Dear Lord, don't give me what I want, give me what I need. Help me to see the good. Help me to see the divinity in everything. Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nice, nice, nice. Oh. Whoa. Wow, what a day to be alive, huh? What a day. What a day. What a life. What a day, what a life in a life. It's such a magical, beautiful, joyful experience. And completely heartbreaking and tragic at the same time. That's what creates the contrast. The beauty and the contrast of life is the fact that it's amazing and terrible all at the same time. And that's exactly what we're getting to in chapter 11 here, is the fact that Arjuna is looking at all aspects of life and he's seeing, wow, I see your beauty, I see your grace, I see all these people bowing down before you, how they love you and they admire you, but they're also terrified and it's scary and you got crazy mouths and fierce teeth and infinite number of arms. You know, it's the beauty and the terror. What is it? It's a beautiful disaster. But it's not really a disaster because it's just such a wonderful, it's all happening in a particular order, in a particular way, in just a particular time. That in my humanness, I can't always understand why it's happening. I'm not always going to get the privilege of knowing why it is that certain things happen in the way that they happen. But I get to be part of the experience. And that is the eternal blessing of all of this, is that good or bad, you and me and everyone in the whole world get to be part of the experience. And that is a blessing, to be part of a life where you have a home to be locked inside of, to have a life that you could fear for. It's a gift. It's a gift that's been given to us to appreciate and to revel in. I had such a great conversation with one of my friends just a little while ago about reveling in the joy of all that you have right now. Reveling in the marvel and the wonder of this life. Like, what makes a tree a tree? What makes a bird a bird? And what makes a human a human? You can't conceive of that. You don't know why that is, but you get to enjoy it. I get to enjoy it. I don't know what congealed my whole life system together that gave me my organs and gave me my voice, gave me the ability to be able to learn a language that then I could use to speak to you so that you could understand what goes inside my head. That was a significant thought right there. The fact that we can do this right now is something to revel in. The fact that this is written down and that it exists, this timeless eternal wisdom of the spiritual science of yoga exists, and that we can use it in our daily lives, that is a miracle. That's 100% every single day. This is a miracle. So as we get into this, I want to start with that mindset, that transcendental mindset that I am part of a miracle. My existence is a miracle. And I might not look the same as other people. I might not talk the same as other people. I have a different experience. I come from my own background and my own beliefs. But you're a miracle. I'm a miracle. This fire is a miracle. Everything that you're witnessing is totally miraculous and comes from a place that is pure love and beauty and eternity, eternal love and terror at the same time. It's amazing. Out of compassion for them, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. Why do I start out reading this verse from chapter 10? Because it takes us into the heart. It reminds us that even though we're going to talk about this in terms of like intellectual concepts, and we're going to get into deep conversation about deep spiritual things, ultimately, the depth that we're seeking is the depth of our hearts, not really the depth of our intellect. We're only refining the intellect to be able to fully connect with the desire and the vision of the heart, the essence of heart energy, so that what is manifested all around us and what is manifested through us is it exists and it is born from, and it carries that love energy, that heart energy. And if you got issues with your heart, if you got issues with love, some of this stuff is going to feel like, ugh. You feel like, why would I want to do that? Why would I want to live from my heart? My heart always leads me down the wrong path. My heart always leads me to the wrong person. My heart is always telling me to do things, and then I do them, and then I end up getting let down. I get disappointed because I opened my heart up and I was vulnerable, and people, they don't appreciate it or they don't understand it. Your mistake is in thinking that people need to appreciate it. Your mistake is in thinking that people need to understand it. Nobody needs to understand it. Nobody needs to appreciate it except you. You're the only one that needs to understand. You're the only one that needs to act on your own behalf. Everyone else has full on the right to just act on their own behalf and act for their own benefit and for their best interests. You have the right to be just as selfish as anyone else with your love, with your time, with your attention. And if you make the choice to give your heart, give your love, and give your full your full vitality and your full force of faith and courage and trust to any moment in life, any person in life, any situation, and it doesn't come out exactly the way that you were hoping that it would, it's not because you didn't love right, and it's not because you weren't understood. It's because God has a plan. And that plan supersedes your desire for a temporary material outcome just so that you can feel good. If you don't feel good, it's because you're not taking the right perspective. Or you might have some sort of like a chemical imbalance. You might have something going on where you really need to talk to someone about what is reality. Not just like the reality that we discuss in this book in terms of spiritual science and devotion and selfless service. Sometimes there's a little bit more work that needs to take place holistically, Ayurvedically, in terms of like your constellation. And what I mean by that is that you're the product of a specific sequence of events that's happened in your life that starts from birth. And you go through this specific sequence of events in your life, and each place that you come to, you have a choice that you have to make. And that choice is a crossroads. And when you make that choice, you start going down a specific path, it starts to build onto an experience, and it builds momentum. And it builds certain beliefs into place, beliefs about who you think you are, what you think the world is, and what you think the point of all this is. And that's what we're doing here. We're all searching for what is the purpose, what's my value, what's the reason, what's the why in all of this. And why are we doing that? So we can get happy, so that we can enjoy our lives, so that we can have the things that we think that we want to have and find our way to those outcomes. But we don't always get there. And again, part of the reason is because somewhere in your constellation, somewhere in your experience, you started to believe that happiness is dependent on the external circumstances, that happiness is dependent on that which is temporary, and that there is a separation between yourself and that which you desire. And what this passage, what verse 11, what chapter 10, verse 11 is saying, out of compassion for them, because the divine understands that we are going to get lost in this, because we exist in this crazy gray area of consciousness where we have the spark. We're created by divinity. This is an insane paradox, right? I haven't talked about this before, but this is a crazy paradox. We're all around us, everything that exists comes from one place, one divine, eternal place, which is fully beyond our comprehension and fully beyond our ability to know. Somehow, in the divinity of that divinity, and how all of creation has manifested, and what that momentum is, and what that reason is, and the cycle of birth and death and samsara, humans have manifested. We have a consciousness which allows us to become introspective about ourselves. We are self-reflective. We're self-aware. So, because we're self-aware and we can reflect on what we are through the imagination and through the senses, we're actually able to perceive our origins without being able to reconnect to them, though, in a way. Like we perceive the separation because externally we're not reconnecting to the source. We're still part of the outcome. In the human body, you're the outcome. But in the heart, you're the source. In the energy of the heart, in the trust and the faith and the belief of the heart, the energy center of the heart, you are a spark of divinity, a piece of the everything. And within that little piece is the everything. So it's paradoxical, our existence, because we're going to circle back to death and then we're going to be in that other in between. And the fact that we have this ability right now to be self-aware, to reflect, to introspect, to dive deep into this, relish this temporary experience, it means that we also have the ability to choose what meaning we give it. And choose to find the eternal, the divinity, the blessing from the heart, right from our center, shining out into all things. And it's a highly elevated, highly dedicated practice that, even Krishna and one of the greatest warriors, Arjuna, admits, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. Just seems really difficult. The science of yoga, as you have explained it, sounds like it would be like that it would be easier to control the wind than to do yoga. I'm not talking about downward dogs and warrior ones. I'm talking about the ability to keep your focus, to keep your attention focused on the one reality, the one truth, that everything that is material is temporary. But the place where all of that material is manifested from and returns to is infinite, and that a piece of that is within us that we can connect to. That's amazing. It's amazing. And that's what we're doing with this. We're trying to reconnect and then reconnect and then reconnect and then reconnect again and again and again to that space in our hearts that is truly, truly loving and appreciating this whole experience of life and death and the cycle of birth and rebirth as magnificent, truly magnificent and perfect. And that's where we're at, right here. Chapter 11, verse 40. Arjuna speaking. I offer my respects from the front, from behind, and from all sides. O unbounded power, speaking to Krishna. You are the master of limitless might. You are all pervading, and thus you are everything. The fact that Arjuna is saying that to Krishna, you are everything, to say that everything, it includes Arjuna. And Krishna has already said of warriors, I am Arjuna. So Krishna said it before that he's Arjuna, and now Arjuna is saying he's Krishna. But he's also acknowledging that there's the difference. There's a difference. It's the ghost in the machine in a weird way. It's that Arjuna is being given a chance to introspect and reflect with divinity, with that outside source that we can't get contact to. He's got contact to it. And now he's telling us, this is amazing. I salute you. You're incredible. Thank you. Holy crap. I have in the past addressed you as, O Krishna, O Yadava, O my friend, without knowing your glories. Please forgive whatever I may have done in madness or in love. We talked about this a little bit last night. I have dishonored you many times while in relaxation, while lying on the same bed or eating together, sometimes alone and sometimes in front of many friends. Please excuse me for all the many offenses I have committed against you. So what he's saying is, I thought you were just my homie. Like, I thought that you were just my friend. I've been treating you just like a friend. I've been treating you just like this awesome guy that I know, that I get to hang out with, who just has all this amazing wisdom, and who I just feel like you're this divine, amazing person. And now it turns out that you're the source of everything. You're the beginning and the middle of it and the end. You're the best in everything and you're the worst in everything. You are everything. Wow. Sorry I treated you like just a dude. I had no idea. Please forgive me. That's awesome. Super humble. 43. You are the father of this. We're in chapter 11, by the way, verse 43. You are the father of this complete cosmic manifestation, the worshipable chief, the spiritual master. No one is equal to you, nor can anyone be with you, nor can anyone be one with you. Within the three worlds, you are immeasurable. So he's making a distinction. No one is equal to you, nor can anyone be one with you. The reason why he's saying that, no one is equal to you, nor can anyone be one with you. It's because everything is him. You can't have a one and everything else. That one is part of the everything. I know it seems like a weird paradox, but you have to, studying the flower of life is something that really helped me to understand this. The full photo of the flower of life, which has the 18 interconnected circles on the inside that form this very special shape with a circle around it. And then there's another circle around that circle. Why are there two circles? Why is there a boundary around the boundary? It's because one of the boundaries, the first boundary, shows that 18 circles interlocked can create an infinite number of shapes, but they're all circles. So that's the first boundary. The second circle outside of it is showing that there is a boundary even to that infinite fractal expansion that you will not be able to get past because you can only perceive and conceive of circles. Think about that. If it was a pattern made of something else, if it was a pattern that was where the perfection of the circle, where we had a different perfect symbol besides the circle, but the circle is the perfect symbol. You look up at the moon, when you see a full moon, you see a perfect circle. You look up at the sun, you see a perfect circle. You crack an egg, when the yolk pops out, what shape is it? It's a circle. What shape are trees? Trees are circular. The circle and the spiral are everywhere in nature. Everywhere. Everywhere. So that is part of our blueprint. But even amidst the flower of life that contains all the sacred geometric forms, it contains the Metatron's cube, and it contains all this other stuff, that knowledge, that wisdom is bounded within a system that you cannot conceive your way out of. And that's something you just have to accept. That's within this is what's talking about complete and utter faith and devotion. Because you are part of it, and yet it is not you. You are not, but you are it. It's separate from you, but you can't conceive of how or why. What you have to do is accept your limitations so that you can start to move on with your life and experience some joy. Crazy, right? Be happy. Even though bad things happen, to be happy. You're going to feel pretty guilty about it at first, but trust me, it gets a whole lot better once you really start to take care of yourself. 44. You are the Supreme Lord to be worshipped by every living being. Thus, I fall down to offer you my respects, and I ask your mercy. As a father tolerates the impudence of his son, or a friend tolerates the impertinence of a friend, or a wife tolerates the familiarity of her partner, so should you tolerate those wrongs that I may have done to you. So this is one of the pillars of Bhakti Yoga, one of the 6 pillars of Bhakti Yoga, tolerance. I will be tolerant. I will be tolerant. I take no offense. Oh my gosh. I will be tolerant. I take no offense. I ask forgiveness for my offenses if I offend others. I see the good in others and I let them know it. I keep a tally of my blessings. I think of them often. And I will not criticize. I will not criticize. I will be tolerant. I take no offense. Those are the first 3. Right? And tolerance outlined here as one of them. Think about those pillars. Those pillars are important. Okay? And as a father, it talks about father and son, friend to friend, wife to partner. Those are relational. Those are the connections between us. Are the relationships that we make. And Bhakti Yoga, the science of yoga, of devotion, and why Krishna and Arjuna, this conversation is so important, God to man, is that it demonstrates the essential need for relationships. I got on a phone call today with some of my cousins that I haven't seen in a really long time. And it was so inspiring because I was reminded that my relationship with them has spanned through my whole life, and they know me in ways that are so intimate, that are so, where everything is so forgivable. It's just so beautiful. And if we have those relationships in our lives, we're so lucky because they're these blissful blessings, these reminders of who we were before we lived in this body, in this life now, when we were children, when we were when we were growing up and we were teenagers and then we were young adults and then we're, moving out and getting jobs and doing all this stuff. Those are different lifetimes, within this life. And some people have seen you through all your evolutions. They've seen you through all your stuff. There's stuff that you can't hide from them because they've just known you too long. And it gets you back in touch with your essence, your innocence, and the beauty of life. At least that's how I felt about it. And the importance of relationship is not to be understated, but you have to be conscious with your relationships. You have to recognize that within your relationships, divinity exists within your relationships. Divinity exists between you and every other person, and that there's no separation between you and every other person except in your thoughts. So as a father tolerates a son, it's because the father tolerates the son because he's got nothing but eternal love for him in that relationship. It's like you're a part of me and I'm part of you, but you're different than me. It's the same thing. And then it gets translated in a different type of love. When you love a friend, you go, I love you as I love myself. When a wife tolerates and loves, it's from the pure joy and love for her partner, for her husband, where she sees this is just the man that I love. This is just the man that I love, being that man, being that person. Or this is just the woman that I love, being that woman. Sometimes if we're not ready for that, though, then we can really struggle to feel the love coming to us from divinity, to feel the joy and the bliss. Like I said, there could be something else going on. It could be a chemical imbalance. It could be in your diet. It could be in the people that you hang out with, that you're just cultivating the wrong relationships in life. You might be living in the wrong state. You might be living, there could be an infinite number of circumstances based on your unique constellation that are coming together as this weird material cocktail that is like contributing overall to your unhappiness. Where if you ditch those circumstances and you just put yourself first and you set yourself up for that, you could wake up in 5 minutes and because you could do it in your thoughts. You could ditch all that stuff in your thoughts and just come back to yourself and be like, if I were to make my own choices for myself, if I were to live my dharma, live my truth, just like the Bhagavad Gita tells me to do, and do it without doubt, do it in complete faith, and devote myself to every relationship as though everything that I'm in relationship with is divinity, and divinity is a relationship that exists within me. How can I go wrong? How can I suffer in any relationship at that point, especially when it means that the first relationship that I have with myself is being purified, cleansed, where the mirror that I gaze into, the lens of my perception is wiped clean. I'm seeing the truth of reality. I'm waking up to the matrix and I'm superseding it, knowing that it'll pull me back in every once in a while and I'll get stuck in human drama. But now I got the tools to pull myself back out of it so I don't stay in that cycle. I don't stay in that negative loop. I see that because I'm able to observe darkness, it means that light is present. If it's total darkness, you're not seeing anything. If you can see darkness, there is light. Wow. Take that, esotericism and philosophizing. If you can see darkness, there is light. Don't forget that. Don't forget that. After seeing this universal form, wait a minute. Yeah, you are the Supreme Lord to be worshipped by every living being. Thus I fall down to offer you my respects and I ask your mercy. 45. After seeing this universal form, which I have never seen before, I am gladdened, but at the same time, my mind is disturbed with fear. So I have happiness and I have fear. See, he's starting to get into the middle now. He's starting to do the yoga. Therefore, please reveal again your form as the personality of Godhead to grace me, O Lord of Lords, O sanctuary of the universe. Sanctuary of the, what is a sanctuary? It's a holy place where things are kept. It's a holy place. It's a holy dwelling, a place of holiness where holiness dwells. So the universe, the sanctuary, the holy place that the universe dwells within is in Krishna. Divinity, whatever you want. You don't have to call it Krishna if you don't want to. Call whatever you want. But in this book and in Bhakti Yoga, we call it Krishna because that's what he called himself when he manifested. So, 46. O universal Lord, I wish to see you in your four-handed form, with the helmeted head and with the club, wheel, conch, and lotus flower in your hands. I long to see you in that form. So we're going to read this purport here. The Lord is eternally situated in hundreds and thousands of forms, and principal among these are Ram, Nrsimha, Narayan, and so on. Arjuna knew that Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, but since he had assumed his temporary Vishvarupa, the universal form, now Arjuna's inquisitiveness increased and he also wanted to see the form of Narayan. This confirms without any doubt that the statement of the Srimad Bhagavatam that Krishna is the original personality of Godhead and that all other features originate from him. It is also clearly stated there that he is not different from his plenary expansions. He is God in any of his innumerable forms, and in all those forms are fresh, just like a young man. That is the feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who thus knows Krishna becomes at once free from all contamination of the material world. God doesn't age. God doesn't differ or vary. Your perception of God differs and varies because you're basing it on material circumstances. But God, in all of his forms, is always God. If you make something, you make a table, it's a table. It's not you as a table. Does that kind of make sense? If God makes something, that's God. But what God makes can also exist on its own and have its own thoughts, have its own, just like us. Like we are a creation of God, but because we're made in that image, both in the image, in the imagination of God, in the mind of God, but that we also have a mind and imagination of our own is how we're made in the image of God. It's a twofold thing. We exist in his imagination, and we also are endowed with the same qualities and the same, in a way, the same abilities. But there is a separation in the fact that we are not God. There is one God that takes an infinite number of forms. Idol worship is the worship of the form. When really what you're trying to look at here is the personality. When it says the supreme personality of Godhead, that's specific. It's not the specific body type of Godhead, not the supreme form of Godhead, because there is no one form that can embody the infinite number of forms that is God. But the supreme personality can have qualities, can have supreme divine qualities that then we can model ourselves after. Is this starting to make sense at all? That like the idea of relationship is so that we have something to build towards, something to relate to say, oh, now that I see that as possible, now that I understand humility because I'm seeing someone be the essence, seeing Krishna be the essence of humility. Now that I'm seeing the essence of joy, the essence of beauty, the essence of patience, the essence of forgiveness, these personality traits that are present within the divine, we can start to learn from that and grow and cultivate those personality traits within ourselves. And it's not just some abstract formless form out in the ether that we can't connect to, that's separate from us. That doesn't feel good. It makes me feel lower. It makes that thing higher. And that is the truth. But that is a disempowering perspective. Whereas to look at it as God's my friend. God came down. I gotta stop saying that. God arrived, manifested, vibrated itself into existence in the form of Krishna a long time ago to lay down the history of what it can be like to have a personal relationship with divinity. And then Jesus came and kind of did the same thing. But Jesus's dharma was something that was different. Krishna's dharma, his purpose here was to show us the infinite, eternal wellspring of all things. I believe Jesus's dharma in being here was to show us that death is an illusion and that suffering is an illusion. And as a reminder of faith. But I digress. We'll get to that when we get into A Course in Miracles. Oh, yeah. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, verse 47, "My dear Arjuna, happily do I show you this universal form within the material world by my internal potency. No one before you has ever seen this unlimited and glaringly effulgent form." So it's a joy this is how awesome Krishna is. He's saying, happily do I do this for you. I've never done it with anyone else, but I'm so happy to do it for you. It's even like, it's almost like Krishna is saying, like, thank you in a weird way. Like, I'm happy. Of course. Yeah, of course. You're welcome. And thank you. I'm happy to do it for you. The universal form within the material world by my internal potency. I show you this universal form within the material world by my internal potency. Sit with that line for a little bit. Try to trace the circle that line, that one verse goes through in terms of like, what is Krishna? Because the depth of that line, this universal form, so I show you all form, within the realm of form, the material realm of form, within my own potency. It's like the Russian doll thing. Like, won't. But it kind of goes internal, external, internal. Internal is the universal form. External, material world. Internal, Krishna's potency. All right. So we're slowly making our way through chapter 11, mainly because I am feeling, in a way, so much more liberated by the whole YouTube thing. I don't know what it is, but I don't know. Maybe it's just a shift in what's taking place and how I'm studying this stuff and what's going on in my own personal life, and just these feelings of daily just processing heartbreak and grief and fear, and then so much love, so much appreciation, so much connection to these teachings on just this whole other level. And so, for the future me and for the future of all of this, I just want you to know how special you are, how loved you are, and how, even though you might be finding me for the first time, you might be coming across this knowledge for the first time, don't be intimidated. It can be really difficult to understand at first because it can question a lot of what you think you know and believe about reality. And it questions it in such a way where it's so simple, it's kind of like really hard to understand. But so that, hopefully coming to understand more of the spiritual science of yoga, the origin of all things, and your reason, your purpose, your dharma, getting connected with that is going to start taking you down the path of transcendental knowledge and realization, where no longer are you bound to the emotion that you feel in this moment or the circumstance that you observe in this moment this is it. This is the body that I'm given. This is the place that I live. This is the world that I'm part of. Oh, God. Oh, man. You go from that to, thank you, body. Thank you, t-shirt. Thank you to every reason, every season, every lifetime, every occurrence, every single choice that I made, because it was my choice that I can experience. And the heightened sensation of bliss and ecstasy comes from the sharing of the experience. And that's what this is all about, sharing the experience of transcendence and divine love from my heart, which is connected to divinity. The spark of divinity within my heart shines and witnesses and feels the spark of divinity within your heart as well. So from that place, with folded hands, we offer our obeisances to each other in the form of thank you to this body. Thank you to this space. Thank you to all of our teachers, and thank you to the spiritual science of yoga.